Welcome back, everybody. This is Rodrigo with another episode of Asheville Real Estate News. Really excited to bring this conversation I had with my friend Jay Chekansky. We are talking about owner financing, buying and selling notes, and just kind of a couple of questions or mindset shifts you can make to do business in a different way, to look at opportunity in a different way, and to kind of just, find things that you maybe didn't know you should be looking for. So hopefully you really enjoy it. We talk about some really good resources at the end of the show. If you are interested into pursuing creative financing or creative deals a little bit more. So check it out. Let us know what you think. Share with a friend. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy the talk. Jay, thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, no problem. It's about time we recorded one of our conversations.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about, we've had a lot of good conversations. Looking back at them, it would have been nice to kind of had them recorded and to be able to look back. So yeah, it's been a long time coming. I'm glad we made it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, it's been fun, seeing your business grow, kind of working together, growing at the same time, helping each other through some different things. So it's been a fun journey so far.
Yeah, no, it's been a super fun journey. And I talking about that, didn't even think about this leading up. And now that you mentioned about it, just like the growth of the business and looking kind of going very similar directions when we first started connecting and talking and like brainstorming together. And then the reason we're having this conversation is because you took a very like aggressive turn doing something very different in a lot of ways, which is, creating notes and doing all of that. So let's start there. Do you remember what happened or when you were like, I need to like get away from the actual like rehabbing and fixing and flipping and renting houses and getting into the paper side of the industry?
Yeah. So the turning point for me came, the first couple of flips I did a majority of the work myself, and quickly realized that you can only do maybe 2, maybe 3 a year.
If you're doing the work yourself.
If you're doing the work yourself, and that's all I knew. That's how I got started in the business. And as I continued to challenge myself to treat this more as a business and not as just a self-employed hustle, just kind of realized that I've got to be able to manage the work, manage the business. And in a couple of flips, just began to realize I'm not that great at managing contractors and subcontractors and stuff like that. So got real fortunate early on. One of my private lenders, he kind of, we were looking at a property that I was going to flip, and he said, yeah, I'll lend you the money for the rehab, but what are you doing tomorrow? You want to come with me and I'll show you what I've been doing for 20 years? So that's what I did. Rode around with him for an afternoon. He showed me what he was doing in the creative finance, seller finance kind of side of things. And as I've gotten into the business, I've received down payments on seller finance houses that are on the order of some of the gross profits of houses I've flipped.
Wow. Yeah, that's I've heard that, right? So I've only done a couple of seller financing notes, or like notes that I've created, and they've always been kind of like out of necessity. Like plan A, fix and sell, that didn't work out the way I was anticipating. Plan B, like could it go as a rental? I was like, yeah, not really. Plan C is like, well, all right, I guess we'll just finance it. How does it change your approach when you kind of go into that with that being your primary exit method versus like just being like the last resort?
I had a couple of experiences like what you described there.
Yeah.
Did a fix and flip that just wouldn't sell. And I had convinced myself that the price tag was right and the value was there, but ended up having to seller finance it on a note. This is a $100,000 house, got a $15,000 down payment for it. And it did not go as planned.
But the financing part or the flip?
No. Well, the flip didn't go as planned.
Right. Yeah.
But the good news is that was one of the deals that taught me the most about the business, that I learned the most from, and had to get creative and had to look at exit strategies that weren't selling it on the retail market.
Yeah.
It taught me the most.
Yeah. I think I don't know. I think if you do this enough, everybody's got that story where they just bang their head with the wall and they're like, how is this happening right now? Right. Like it's just, I don't know if anybody's been doing it for a long time who doesn't have just that one of those instances where it's like, everything's going on. Do you feel like having this as your primary, like after you went through that, has changed your frustration going through deals? And I guess the reason I ask, because in my mind, like I know as a buyer, I'm always like looking aggressively for owner financing deals. That's how my preferred method to buy. And I'll buy things that I would never buy for cash if the financing is in place. So I'm assuming it's just 10 times easier to sell something on terms than if you're, selling it like traditionally. Is that a fair, like outside looking in?
Yeah, that's pretty fair. I think the priorities are different, right? When you're selling a fix and flip on the retail market, you're selling to these folks that watch HGTV every night and expect granite and shiplap and hardwood floors at every price point. Mm-hmm. Working in the owner finance, seller finance realm, folks are much more concerned with what's the down payment, what's the monthly payment. They'll overlook whether this place needs a little bit of work. You can sell a handyman special on terms. You can sell a retail ready house on terms. Priorities are a little different for the buyers.
Yeah. So, I guess that doesn't make sense. So let's take it a couple steps back, and we were talking a little bit again, and as we were talking about like questions we ask ourselves to help like move the business forward, right? What was the question that you're asking yourself the most often right now to help kind of move your business forward well?
The question, it's more to challenge myself to think a little deeper. But with every deal I do, I challenge myself and ask myself this question: how can I drive to this house one less time on this deal than on the last house?
Yeah. And how often are you driving to a house? Do you know? Like, I know it's kind of a specific question, but
on this flip I finished up 2 weeks ago, I was driving to the house 4 days a week. On the last house I seller financed, I think I bought the house in January, had a tenant in it. She left at the end of July. I went there twice after that to put a lockbox on the door, mowed the lawn, came back 2 weeks later, mowed the lawn, and that was it.
So then your goal essentially is right now, I'm kind of reading between the lines, is get these houses, buy them, do enough so that they look appealing-ish, and then sell them on terms that make sense for somebody who's going to come in and buy and fix, essentially. Buy, fix, and live.
Yeah, buy, fix, and live. Some of these houses are much, a little better than rental grade. Mm-hmm. So these aren't slums. They're not boarded up houses. These are slightly better than rental grade houses that someone can move right in and start living there.
Huh. So let's talk about the process.
Yeah.
A to Z, without getting too much in the weeds, what does your typical deal acquisition to deal disposition look like? And what is, whatever you're able to share about that process, like marketing methods, et cetera.
Yeah. So, right now I'm doing typical marketing that any other wholesaler or fix and flipper is doing, looking for motivated leads with some of the channels that I use. But I've had really good luck on the MLS. There is a segment of houses that the numbers don't make sense from a fix and flip standpoint. The numbers don't really make sense from a rental standpoint, but I can buy at slightly better than what a fix and flip deal would look like.
Yeah.
Do little to no work with these things and resell them. So to kind of walk you through a typical deal, I'm scouring the typical, the MLS, Zillow, Redfin, wherever. Have a couple of brokers that I work with in different areas because I'll work a 90-minute radius around the Charlotte area. We're making offers. The offers have to make, I'm working backwards from what the area rent is. Okay. And
so what do you mean by that?
What is the rent for a 3-bed, 1.5 house? Let's say it's $800 or $850 a month.
Yep.
Work backwards from there, subtract, monthly taxes, monthly insurance, third-party loan servicing, and that kind of gives me a ballpark idea of a monthly PI payment.
PI being principal and interest.
Principal and interest, yep. do some calculations on a financial calculator, put me in a range of what a 15-year, 20-year loan term look like, where the house price looks like. Does the down, a 10% down payment make sense for those terms? And we're making offers on those houses simply based on what that owner finance value looks like.
Yeah. Sorry, are you done?
I can keep going.
Keep going. I'll wait to ask questions at the end. Yeah. Go for it.
So that helps me, figure out what I can sell the property for with my main exit strategy. And then from there, just making offers in the 50 to 65% range of what that value is. And the reason for that is I'm borrowing private money to acquire these houses. I want my lenders in a very secure first lien position, meaning 50 to 65% of that owner finance value, so that they're very safe. We'll acquire the house, and then from there start my marketing. And marketing looks like 20 bandit signs around these houses. It looks like Facebook Marketplace. It is Craigslist. It's Zillow. I mean, it's all the typical avenues except for the MLS. And
why not the MLS? Seems like it would just be like feeding frenzy if you put it on there and save you some time.
Yeah,
unless I'm missing something.
It could be. The truth is, I haven't had to resort to the MLS just yet. I don't need a retail buyer coming in there and complaining about the house needing paint or updating or wood panel on the walls or something like that. The non-MLS avenues provide me with more than enough leads.
Fair enough. Yeah, and I guess it gives you a little bit more ability to control the process and pre-screen in a way that makes the most sense, right?
Yeah, and right now I'm handling most of the incoming calls from buyers.
Yeah.
And before these folks are even looking at the house, I'm making sure that we're on the same page in regards to down payment, that they can afford it, that they've got decent income, that they have the best chance to go through the qualification process with an RMLO.
Yeah. So let's take it a couple steps back there. So you said something. So when you finance these, are you keeping your private lenders in the deal in a first position, and then you're taking a second position note for the difference in the equity that you're cashing in on? And are your lenders okay with being in a first position owner finance deal?
Yep.
With an owner occupant? Isn't there some major red flags about that?
Why would there be red flags?
Well, I mean, most of the loan docs that I've signed for deals are this is specifically non-owner occupant, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm just wondering, it's obviously turns into an owner occupant situation.
Yep. So what I do is when I send out a lending opportunity, 1 to 2 pager, I'm very clear. What my exit strategy is, it is to seller finance this. Title will transfer. I'm looking for a sophisticated lender that understands wrapping a second mortgage around their first lien position. They understand that first lien is with me and my companies. And most of the time, these folks understand how money works. They're comfortable with that. They understand that they're protected in that first lien position.
So let's talk about this a little bit more. Personally, I'm very curious. So you get this loan, and you own it in your LLC, right, for the property.
Preferably,
right?
preferably you're taking title in trust, in a land trust.
Okay, so you're buying the house in a trust.
In trust, I bought them in an LLC, in entities.
Is that the trust what makes it work? Then you just substitute. The trust stays the same, and you substitute the beneficiary, kind of like if you were buying subject to or something like that. Is it the same concept?
Essentially you're selling and I'm not a lawyer. Contact your own lawyer.
Not legal advice here. Yes.
not legal advice, but
conceptual theory.
Yeah. Hypothetically speaking, what it is the trust from, it provides asset protection to the beneficiary.
Right.
On the seller finance side, one of the bigger things is these folks, most of them are, hardworking, honest folks. They're self-employed and can't get a bank loan. They've had credit problems in the past and they're rebuilding. There's a reason why they're in the penalty box. They don't qualify for
Would Yeah. Would it be fair to say that they have good cash positions and well, maybe not terrible, but not ideal credit scores?
Yeah. That's one of the reasons why.
Yeah.
Taking title in a trust and selling the beneficiary interest is if someone does make another mistake, it is going to help prevent any kind of judgment from being affixed to the chain of title on the property.
Gotcha. Interesting. That makes sense then. So then that's why your lenders feel comfortable then, right? Because you're still basically, the title chain, it hasn't changed too much, right?
Right. The beneficial interest is what is transferred.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Okay, cool. So you get through this process, you find your buyer, they take title, and then what happens? How do you cash out your lenders? Or are they in it for the long run? Because like 180 months is, not a lot of times lenders like to be in and out of deals quicker. So how do you manage that or account for that?
And you ask for it. I found.
So you've just been able to find the people who are comfortable with that long-term carry.
Yeah, and this was kind of some of that head trash I was carrying around initially was, all these private lenders, they want to do 9 months and 12 and 3 and get out and find the next one. That's a very active position that there are people with money in self-directed IRAs that have full-time jobs. They can't be vetting deals.
Yeah, they want to do work once and get paid for the next 10 years.
Work once and gets paid. And I've been very fortunate to connect with some folks. I'm borrowing money anywhere from 2 to 4 years short term all the way out to 15 years, fully amortized. On the shorter term deals, like I said, in those lending opportunities, I'm laying out the exit strategies. I'm letting these folks know that the plan here is I'm going to hold this note for as long as I can, because right now the goal is monthly cash flow.
No doubt.
Hold the note as long as I can. If I don't pay off that underlying first lien through my active income means, meaning flipping houses and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to sell my second, either a partial or the full of my second position to pay off the first lien and move that owner occupied second into first position. So the investor that buys that second position note gets the protection of
the first position.
Yeah. Yep.
So many questions. But so let's talk about this. I think I have questions around I got into real estate 2012, and this was, a lot of people were having a shift in their business model that had been doing what you're doing because of the Dodd-Frank Act or the Dodd-Frank and the SAFE Act. So how are you accounting for, making non-predatory loans and just being able to prove that you vetted somebody, because you're not a mortgage broker that I know of. So how do you make sure that you can say hey, I'm putting people in a position to succeed, not to lose?
Yeah, for sure. And that's a great question. Something that's very important. I don't want to ride a merry-go-round with a house, right? I want to, part of the
one and done.
One and done. And part of the reason I do this is I'm a believer that that neighborhoods and communities and people are better off with home ownership than with rentals.
Yeah.
You can always tell there's a sense of pride associated with owning a home. And I take pride in providing the opportunities to do that. The last thing I want to do is put someone in a position where they're going to lose their down payment, they're going to lose their home, so on and so forth. So, based on, my understanding of Dodd-Frank is the best thing you can do to protect yourself and protect these buyers is to use the services of a third-party residential mortgage loan originator. Let them collect credit information, income information, employment information, and so on, and ensure that these folks, they may not have, they're not going to have a 700 plus credit score. Otherwise, they'd be going to a bank. They may have a 640 credit score or a 620. They have a strong down payment. They have strong employment strong employment history, and they make enough money per month to comfortably make this mortgage payment. So that third party originator, he's verifying that.
And then you get a packet that you can hold on to. And if somebody asks hey, how do you know that they can qualify or afford this? You can say, well, here's how, essentially, right?
And the truth is, when you go to sell a note to another investor, having that paperwork, basically having clean, valuable paper assets makes that paper much more valuable. Otherwise, you're going to be selling it at a steeper discount.
Yeah. Anything that maybe I haven't asked or worth touching on about the creation of the notes that we should dig into a little bit more about the tactical? Because I do want to get into selling notes a little bit and kind of, that component of the business too, but let's make sure we cover our bases.
I would say that some of the best words I ever heard were learn how money works or you'll always work for someone who does. So
that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Say that one more time.
Learn how money works or you'll always work for someone who does. And what I've done is learn how to use a financial calculator. For $6 or $7, you can download an app. It's the same as the Hewlett-Packard 10B2 financial calculator. There's 5 or 6 functions across the top of it. There are plenty of YouTube videos to teach you how to do that. And what that's going to do, that helps you, look at, create, understand, digest all these different loan, lending, and borrowing scenarios that you can create.
What's your favorite maybe book, podcasts, resources? If somebody's like, man, this is super intriguing, I need a deep dive. Where does somebody go to deep dive?
Yeah, so one of my favorite podcasts for that is called, the Creative Financing Podcast.
Yeah,
with Jeff Rappaport.
It's good.
Yep, it is great. He talks about a number of different creative, and that's what this all is. It's not just owner financing or seller financing. It's creative financing, because the same techniques used to sell a house on terms can be used to buy a house on terms.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, I've said this before, buying on terms is like my favorite way to buy. If you're never going to get something you're not willing to ask for. So as a reminder, if there's a term or specific structure you'd like to see happen, ask for it. You might get the yes, and then you're off to the races. It's more than once I've been surprised by what somebody would agree to when I've just asked, and you take the time to understand what's going on.
Yeah, so and as of late, every offer I make, it has more, 2 or 3 options. And the truth is, the lowball insulting cash offer always gives me anxiety when I'm delivering it.
Yeah.
But I can stand there with complete confidence in front of a homeowner and offer them terms to buy their house.
Yeah, I'm assuming you're making more term offers now than you are cash offers. Is that am I picking that up correctly, or do you still is it kind of equal?
It's both, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to deliver these people 2 or 3 options, a cash offer, a short-term seller finance, and a longer-term seller finance.
Just try to increase your option of getting a yes.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into the note side of the business. What would be the best way you would explain this to, maybe you're sitting down with somebody who's interested in being a lender for you, and you're talking about how you're going to cash them out in, the next 3 to 5 years or something. What would that conversation look like?
Well, I'd sit down with, like I said, with that 1-page overview. If one of the first things I'd let these folks know is, if you're not comfortable owning this house, don't make this loan. Because the worst case and best case scenario are usually opposite. Worst case scenario is I make every single on-time payment to you. And you get exactly what we specified or talked about. Yeah. Best case is I don't make those payments, and you either get, you can foreclose and take back this house that you've got at a 50 to 65% value, or turn over that promissory note from the second position that's cash flowing, and that's usually at a 1 and sometimes 2 times the amount of your initial first lien. So walk through these folks. I have a oh my God, I can't think of the word right now. Credibility package that I share with these folks. It's about you, just your experience, what you've done, how you've done it, et cetera. My experience, my background, examples of deals, examples of numbers, examples of the underlying financing that's been in place. Yeah. Because you will talk to folks and they think that they want to do a 1-year deal, but the truth is they'd rather have this money making money for them for 4, 5, 8, 10 years. Do you think that there's this kind of automatic desire to do short-term deals from a lending perspective because of the
I don't know, allure of safety or the illusion of safety or the concept that like, oh, I get my money back, it's liquid, etc. That is that what over like, or what's the biggest aha moment when you're talking to somebody and you're like, hey, like, look, this is what happens if you hold this for 10 years versus 2 years. Like, what do you ever notice, like what clicks for them to be like, oh, that is a really good fit?
When I'm working with motivated sellers, I'll kind of spell that out. Here's what you would make over, if you seller finance your house to me for 10 years, here's what you will make. With a private lender, aha moment. The aha moment for me was all I knew were people making short-term loans on fix and flip type stuff.
Yeah.
It wasn't until, and it's wild to say it, but worked up the nerve to ask my network if anyone was looking to lend longer term. And you wouldn't believe the response I got from people in that network that said, yes, I'm looking for something like this.
Again, can't get something you don't ask for, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's ridiculous to say it, but the only thing holding me back right there was just this trash in my head that people only wanted to lend for 9 months at whatever,
12 and 3 or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
The common, right?
and the thing is, I did a deal last year with a lender. Things are going great. And she has introduced me to 2 or 3 coworkers that want the same thing. They don't have time to vet all these deals.
They want the plug and play.
They want the plug and play. They have money that has been sitting in an IRA for just too long, making nothing.
Yeah, and they want to get it working. So, well, let's circle back around to the buying and the selling of the notes. Do you primarily just sell, or do you buy notes as well, or kind of where are you in that spectrum?
The only notes that I bought were the tails of my own. So when you're making these notes, there's a couple of provisions you can put in there. A first right of refusal. So if the note holder is going to sell a portion of that at a discount, they come to me first. They check with me and see if it's something I'm interested in buying back.
So you've bought some of those?
Yeah, one.
Okay.
Right, but the beauty there is in giving myself the option to do that and the power that comes with that. As far as buying notes, it's outside of the scope of what I'm doing right now. I'm still in a wealth building, active income generating cash flow kind of mode for my business.
Yeah. So what does it look like when you're selling a note then? Do you have a list of people who have expressed interest in buying notes and you put it out there? Or is it kind of more of like knock on doors, specific people one by one and try to find like a note that's a specific fit for what somebody's mentioned that they're looking for? How is your best approach for that?
Initially, so the first couple I sold, if you put a house on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or something like that, owner financing or seller financing, you're going to get phone calls from brokers around the country. And stroke of luck, I just happened to save a couple of these folks' contact info. And when the time came that I needed to sell a note, I reached out to them. Now that was 2.5 years ago with the first note I sold. Since then, just really developed a much better network of contacts, of people that I know that are looking to buy performing notes. And those are the folks doing the same thing, right? You make a one pager. I've sent you a copy of one, right? Lay out the info for these folks, let them digest it, make a decision, and reach back out to me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What do you think's the biggest benefit that you have found on being a little bit more on the creative note side of things versus the actual like structure side of the business?
Sure. When you say structure side.
So like what has been your favorite part about, creating notes, seller financing, instead of like fixing and flipping houses and being like a landlord?
Okay. 2 things. One is when you turn over the key, there was a moment not a moment, but one of these deals I did, turned over the keys at closing to this family, and the feeling of joy and gratitude was incredible. Like, it blew me away, you know, and it serves as a great reminder that there's more to this business than just money.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really cool. And I get that sense from a lot of these deals I do.
Yeah.
The other thing is, and this is a little more selfish, but
it's okay sometimes. Yeah.
And this is something I realized, right?
Yeah.
When I was flipping houses, I did not enjoy dealing with contractors, subcontractor excuses, poor quality of work,
mm-hmm.
them pressuring me to pay them, and me being unhappy with the quality of work, and just that battle that goes on there.
Yeah.
When you get into the note space, you're typically dealing with a much more sophisticated level of person. These people understand how money works.
Right.
They've typically been in the business for 10, 20, 30, 40 plus years. They're a wealth of knowledge. And I love having conversations at that level.
No, that makes a ton of sense. I kind of been struck by something there's been a reoccurring theme that I've kind of heard you hint at, or even specifically mention, which is, I just have to like think differently, or is a mindset shift, right? What do you attribute that to? Like, how did that start happening? And is there anything that you actively do to like open your mind up to more shifts more often? Does that make sense? Kind of what I'm asking?
Yeah. Do we have 3 to 5 minutes for me to share that story?
We have more than 3 to 5 minutes if it needs to be longer. I mean, that's like super important, I think, to dig into. So
yeah, and this you know, it was painful. It was painful at the time, but now such a valuable learning experience.
Mm-hmm.
I think this was in the fall of 2016.
Okay.
Had a house under contract.
To buy or to sell?
To buy.
Okay.
To buy. It was going to be a fix and flip.
Mm-hmm.
And the home inspector pointed out that, you know, one of the corners of it was a brick ranch house in the basement. One of the corners of the house appeared to have settled. There was stair step cracking in the bricks. There was a foundation issue. And I was only, you know, a year and a half, 2 years into this business. All I had heard from various sources was, you know, run away from foundation issues.
Mm-hmm.
So without ever considering how to fix it, or what it would take to fix it, or how to fix it, ran away. You know, just I was in the due diligence period, left that contract, left that house. Turns out I'm good friends with the investor that bought the house. It cost like $4,500 or $5,500 to repair the foundation. The guy made $35,000 or $40,000 on this house flip, and I was in awe because all I did was just, you know, mindlessly walk away from this house.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward to 6 months later, found a house with a really, really bad foundation. And I chose, I was not walking away from this one.
You're like, this is happening.
This is happening. I bought a $300,000 house for $125,000 and ended up losing $60,000 in the process. Couldn't fix it. Sold it at a discount. But when you have that much, you know, that much tied up in a house, you lose that much. It made me reconsider some of these social norms around buying houses and what the herd says and what the crowd says, and neglecting that. But I got to thinking about it, and it's like, you know what a great opportunity for me to learn how to start doing deals with none of my own money.
Yeah.
And just started challenging myself like that more and more, and getting more and more creative.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the big turning point for me.
Yeah, no, that is a huge turning point. It's, I think once you, like, I've definitely been burned on a couple of flips before, and it's every time I do another one, I'm always like, okay, let's hope that I've thought of everything, or, you know, I've got the right people around me, you know, everybody's on the same page, and it's always nerve wracking until they sell again for me. 'Cause I like the longer term. So, you know, anybody who's listened to this knows I'm a big mobile home fan. I love to get those for rentals and kind of keep that moving. But talking about mindset again, let's go back to, like, what are you doing anything else so that you don't walk away from a deal, or that you ask better questions moving forward to keep opening your mind up for opportunities that, 2016 wasn't that long ago. It's 4 years, right? So in the last 4 years, you've pretty much done a full spin on what was your normal business model. Did you even know about notes back then?
It was just this holy grail of real estate investing. I thought it was something that you only get to after 30 years in the business.
Mm-hmm.
And the more, I guess the more I started to understand how money worked, attending events and listening to some of these really creative and sophisticated investors speak, it made me want to learn more and more about the space.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, the creativity comes from, using notes as a vehicle, using options as a vehicle. There's more tools in the toolbox than just a lowball cash offer.
I agree wholeheartedly with that. Well, man, as we're wrapping up, is there anything that you want to share about it? Anything that you're really excited about over the next few months that you're working on or you're looking at doing?
Just plugging away, challenging myself each day, getting better and better at this by driving to these houses one less time with each
one
house.
less time. Yeah.
Focusing on how I can provide better value to my investors, better value to these buyers.
Mm-hmm. Keep doing it.
Just keep doing it. Take action every day.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. Well, thanks so much for taking the time to share about this. We might have to get you back on here to do a deep dive on some of these topics, because I know, or at least it feels like we just skimmed the surface on a lot of this stuff. Somebody's listening to this and they're like, man, I need to get more involved. How do they connect with you, and what's the next action step somebody should take in your opinion if they want to get into the note side of things and they haven't yet?
All right. So the easiest way to contact me, just shoot me an email. It's jchekansky@gmail.com. I'm on Instagram, jchek779. Connect with me there. If you want to take the first steps towards learning about notes and investing in that area, the Creative Finance Real Estate Podcast is a good place. Jimmy Napier wrote a book called Invest in Debt. Not the most fun read, but great information in there.
Yeah.
Just research. One of the best meetings that I consistently attended was that private money focus group up in Asheville.
Yeah.
Loved going to that. Made great connections with some people, and continue to work with them.
That's awesome, man. We'll include all of that in the show notes, your contact information. So if anybody's listening, they want to get in touch with you, they can do that easily. Cool, man. Well, I guess on that note, we can wrap it up. I hope to see you at some time soon in person as well, by the way. Go ride some bikes together again.
I'm 2 hours away, and we'll drive up there to hang out with you at any time.
Awesome, man. Well, Jay, thanks so much for joining the show. It was good to talk about notes and everything. And I know I got a lot of personal questions in there, so thanks for taking the time. All right, y'all, thanks for tuning in. See you all next week. Share this with your friends. Reach out to Jay if you have any questions. What was the podcast again? The Creative Real Estate Financing Podcast. So it's a good starting place if you're interested on the creative side. Take care and see you guys.